Hello and welcome to Doom Does DVD, and this is Disney Classics number 36, Mulan. As we discussed last week, this is one among the apparently many that I've not actually seen before. But on the other hand, I do, for some reason, feel like I know some of the story to this one. Young girl pretends to be a boy in order to join the army in place of her elderly father. This is Disney, so at some point she probably falls in love with someone who she probably shouldn't. And I also get the feeling there's a pet dragon involved somehow. I don't know exactly where I've picked up these bits of story over the years, but I obviously have from somewhere. It feels like the kind of story that's been told multiple times. And maybe it has. I don't actually know what this is based on and whether there's common source material with other similar stories. Or maybe, for some reason, I've just happened to hear specifics about this one. But obviously I'm missing some details. Everything I've just described is missing an antagonist. Generally, when you're talking about armies, there will also be an opposing army, so I'm guessing maybe the main antagonist will be like the general of the opposing side, and possibly the forbidden love interest will be someone from the opposing army also. And so that's all my prior knowledge for this one. Some basic information of the story, which allows me to make some additional speculation. But beyond that, there's nothing else. I don't know anything about this musically or any other facts about the production, except for the fact it stars Ming-Na Wen. But in general, the feeling that I've sort of gathered over the years is that this one is one that's fairly well regarded, so I have fairly optimistic expectations for this one. Let's see how much of that turns out to be true. So overall, that was pretty good. But knowing that the so-called Disney Renaissance is coming to an end next week, you can also say that I can start to see the cracks. It's a great story, and it has great character animation, but you can also see a bit that there's a lot less time being spent on background detail. And there's also a lot more here being done by computer. And even though technology is continuously improving, we're still not quite at the point where stuff done on computer can be seamlessly integrated with hand-drawn things. The songs here don't seem to be quite as seamlessly integrated. Also, this is the first time in a while, with the exception of The Lion King, that we haven't had Oscar winner Alan Menken on songwriting duties. Admittedly, I was starting to think that his efforts were getting a bit repetitive, but the alternative we got here is not actually any better. It still continues to be a bit generic. And also, not a lot of them. There's basically only 3 numbers here. And they all take place within the first act. It feels to me like this would have actually played a lot better without the musical aspect. It should just have been a straight up action adventure story animation. Especially when you've got a Jerry Goldsmith doing a score. They could have concentrated on that and saved the budget from the other musical numbers. Although I guess you could probably at least have kept the training montage one, because you need something for that. The story wasn't exactly as I had guessed, but I had the basics down. The love interest was from the same army, not the opposing one. But the details of how all that happened were also not quite as I expected. Somehow I had the idea that Mulan had gone into this with a bit more prior training. She wasn't just a raw trainee. And I was somehow expecting more of a Katniss Everdeen I volunteer kind of moment, rather than sneaking out in the middle of the night to join the army. Also, the army unit she joins is much smaller than I thought it was going to be. Of course, none of these are bad things, they're just not what I had initially guessed. So, there were some minor issues and some things which didn't turn out as expected. But overall, I really enjoyed that. But I do have to wonder at least a little bit how this goes over in China. Is this another case of Disney cultural appropriation? There's a special bonus feature that kind of makes a big deal about how we did our research for this. But that just involves a week trip to China where they did some sketches. I read a story about how Greece declined to have the premiere of Hercules because they were like, oh, it's just American cultural appropriation again. We're not interested in them stealing our story. And that's obviously not the first time this has happened in a Disney film. To me, at least, it, feels a little more sensitive. But, I'm just some white dude in the UK. I am not the one to be the judge of these things. But this has been the one I enjoyed the most since The Lion King. What are your thoughts on this one? Tell me about those in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next week with Tarzan.